Admiral Helena Chen stared at the transmission from the Raxian Empire with a bemused expression. The holographic figure of High Commander Zareth stood rigidly, his forearms crossed in what was supposed to be an intimidating posture. The grey-skinned alien's gill slits fluttered with indignation. The Raxian Galactic Empire demands the immediate surrender of your Terran vessels from the Arcturus sector. You have encroached upon our rightful expansion zone. You have 2 planetary rotations to comply, Zareth announced, mandibles clicking with finality before the transmission cut. Helena leaned back in her command chair aboard the TSS Resilience and chuckled. Her XO Commander Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. "Should we be concerned, Admiral?" he asked. "The Raxians have been expanding unchecked for centuries," Helena replied, bringing up a tactical display. "They've never encountered a species that could match their military technology. Until now, the Terran fleet consisted of only 5 vessels, minuscule compared to the reported 50 warships in the Raxian Armada. But numbers had long ceased to be the deciding factor in humanity's conflicts. "Send a message to Earth Command," Helena ordered. "Tell them we've received a formal challenge from the Raxians." And then, her lips curved into a smile. "Prepare a demonstration." High Commander Zareth paced the command deck of his flagship, the Imperial Dominance. His subordinates maintained a respectful distance. Zareth's temper was legendary throughout 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. "The humans have not responded," his communications officer reported nervously. "Of course not," Zareth scoffed. "Their primitive sensors must have detected our fleet by now. They are likely fleeing or preparing their surrender terms." The tactical officer suddenly straightened. "Commander, the human vessels are moving." "Tactical display," Zareth ordered, turning to the massive view screen. The 5 human ships had formed a pentagonal formation. Strangely, they weren't retreating or advancing. They were simply holding position at the edge of the disputed sector. "They mock us," Zareth hissed. "Prepare all weapons." "We will." Energy spike. The tactical officer shouted. Massive energy signatures from all 5 vessels. Aboard the Resilience, Helena gave the command, "Activate the Einstein-Rosen field." The 5 Terran ships hummed as their quantum generators synchronized. Humanity had discovered something remarkable about space-time 50 years earlier. With enough energy applied in precisely the right pattern, you could temporarily alter the fundamental constants of physics within a localized field. Between the 5 ships, space itself began to shimmer with an iridescent light. Rodriguez monitored the readings. ER field stable at 93%. "The Raxians are powering weapons." "Let them," Helena said calmly. "Expand field radius to encompass their fleet." On the Imperial Dominance, chaos erupted as systems began failing across the ship. Weapons that had conquered 1,000 worlds suddenly went dormant. Engines capable of crossing galaxies sputtered and died. "What is happening?" Zareth demanded, watching in horror as his mighty fleet drifted powerless. His science officer looked up from her console, eyes wide. "Commander, they've changed the rules." "Explain." "The humans have generated a field that's altering the strong nuclear force constant within our vicinity. Our antimatter containment systems rely on quantum stabilizers that—" "In simple terms," Zareth roared. "They've turned off our technology," she said weakly. "Everything except basic life support." Helena watched the now helpless Raxian fleet on her view screen. "Open a channel." Zareth's face appeared, rage and confusion battling for dominance in his expression. "This is Admiral Helena Chen of the Terran Space Service. We've temporarily adjusted the laws of physics in your vicinity. Don't worry, it's completely reversible." "This is impossible," Zareth whispered. "No species has ever." "We call it the Einstein-Rosen field," Helena explained conversationally. "Quite handy in situations like these." Now, About your ultimatum. She leaned forward, her smile fading. Humanity has no interest in conquest, High Commander. We explore, we trade, we learn. But we do not surrender. Her eyes hardened. Not to anyone. Zareth's mandibles twitched. For the first time in his 300-year life, he felt genuine fear. I propose a diplomatic summit instead, Helena continued, to discuss mutually beneficial boundaries. When we deactivate the field, your ships will function normally again. And if we refuse? Zareth asked, already knowing the answer. Helena shrugged. Then we leave the field in place and tow your ships to the nearest habitable planet. You'd eventually develop steam power, I imagine. Perhaps in a few millennia, you'd work your way back to space travel. Silence hung between them before Zareth finally nodded. We accept your proposal for a summit. As the transmission ended, Rodriguez turned to Helena. That was almost too easy. That's how it usually goes, Helena replied, settling back into her chair. The galaxy is full of bullies who've never been stood up to. She glanced at the tactical display, showing the disabled Raxian armada. Humanity learned long ago that the most powerful weapon isn't the one that destroys your enemy. It's the one that makes fighting unnecessary in the first place, Rodriguez finished. Helena nodded. Exactly. Now, let's prepare for some diplomacy.